On April 3, 2016, Zach Johnson entered a tractor shed in western Minnesota, placed a phone on a dusty oil drum, and began talking. A John Deere tractor sat behind him. No camera crew or polish set suggested this upload would change his family's future. Zach only wanted to correct what strangers were saying about farmers online. Yet it eventually created a business more profitable than his crops. The surprise is why a farmer who loved the land built a career that pulled him away from it. Before anyone called him the Millennial Farmer, Zach belonged to a family that had worked Minnesota soil since 1868. His Swedish ancestors established the farm under the Homestead Act, starting 6 farming generations. By Zach's time, horses and one-bottom plows had given way to GPS guidance, combines, synthetic fertilizer, and tractors his ancestors could never have imagined. Farming was not Zach's only ambition. He considered becoming a police officer or a conservation officer. He loved racing, so after graduation he traveled about 200 miles north to Bemidji to study race car construction. Then a snowmobile accident changed his direction. Zach broke his ankle during his second year and returned home, unable to walk for 3 months. Once he recovered, he agreed to farm with his father for a year or two. That temporary decision became permanent. Zach found no reason to leave. The demanding work was familiar and tied to something larger than himself. Together, they eventually worked more than 2,600 acres, growing corn and soybeans. Corn went to nearby ethanol plants, while grain was sold as livestock feed. From outside, this continued an old family story. But Zach saw a new conflict online. Friends, relatives, and strangers were sharing alarming claims about genetically modified crops, pesticides, drainage, irrigation, and modern farm equipment. Farmers saw these tools as necessary for producing food efficiently. Many consumers saw only danger, secrecy, or corporate control. Zach felt that farmers were being discussed without being heard. The distance between food producers and buyers bothered him. He did not dismiss every criticism, but believed the online conversation lacked context. Why were certain seeds chosen? Why were chemicals used? What did planting involve? By following one real farm from spring through harvest, people might understand those decisions. That was Millennial Farmer's purpose. It was not an entertainment empire, but an attempt to join an argument. The channel's name challenged another stereotype. He wanted to show that millennials could work hard. His first upload addressed the disconnect between farmers and consumers. Production was basic and his delivery stiff. He filmed by phone before adding a GoPro, recording machinery, fieldwork, crop conditions, and explanations of controversial practices. On June 6, 2016, he posted a video about spraying corn with Roundup. Zach openly said his farm grew genetically modified crops and used glyphosate. Instead of hiding practices critics questioned, he brought the camera closer. His message was simple. Viewers should see what farmers used, hear why they used it, and judge the full process rather than a frightening headline. For more than a year, very little suggested that the idea would become a major business. The channel remained a side project squeezed between weather, repairs, planting, and harvest. Zach sometimes disappeared for weeks because the farm came first. By September 2017, he had not uploaded anything for about 6 weeks. Preparing for harvest, he decided to make an 18-minute tour titled, Gearing Up for Harvest. The subject sounded ordinary. Zach walked viewers through grain bins, storage buildings, and the large machines waiting for the busiest season of the year. But for people who had never stood beside a combine or looked inside a grain facility, the ordinary felt new. The video crossed 100,000 views within roughly 3 or 4 days. Zach had never seen anything like it. Then came the first proof that attention could become income. After joining Google AdSense, he found $92 in his account from that video. To a farm managing thousands of acres, $92 was not life-changing money. What it represented was different. People were willing to spend time watching the work he already performed every day, and YouTube would pay him for explaining it. Zach showed the number to his wife, Becky. She understood social media more clearly than he did and asked whether he knew what an influencer was. Zach disliked the word immediately. To him, it sounded like an empty millennial label, exactly the kind of image he was trying to challenge. Becky saw something else. She saw the beginning of a farming brand with an audience far beyond Minnesota. She jokingly imagined that Zach could become the Kylie Jenner of farmers. Behind the joke was a serious proposal. Give the channel one committed year and discover where it could lead. Zach agreed. Soon, Becky stopped running the daycare she had operated from their former home and took charge of editing so they could publish more often. She also helped shape the social strategy and the business growing around it. The results came quickly. During the 2018 harvest, videos about wet corn and the first day of harvest helped push the channel from roughly 70,000 subscribers to 150,000. Around half of the viewers, according to a poll Becky conducted, were not farmers. They came for giant machinery, practical explanations, dry humor, and access to a world normally hidden beyond rural roads. By 2019, Zach and Becky had about 300,000 subscribers and 50 million views. That year, Zach said their social media work had earned roughly 5 times what the farm produced for them. The educational hobby had become the stronger business. But every upload now carried a hidden cost. To keep the channel growing, Zach needed to film the farm constantly. And the more successful millennial farmer became, the harder it was for him simply to remain a farmer. Millennial Farmer helped Zach buy equipment and take a role on the family farm. But the channel no longer merely followed his work. Hundreds of thousands of people listened when he spoke. A rural tragedy showed that his audience could do more than watch. On December 21, 2019, toxic silo gas overcame 3 Bosel family members near Millerville, Minnesota. 47-year-old Kurt Bosel and his 11-year-old son, Alex, were working near the top when they collapsed. Another son called 911, then Kurt's nearby brother, Stephen. Stephen climbed into the silo without breathing equipment to save his brother and nephew. The fumes overcame him too. Stephen, 49, died there. Kurt died the next morning. Alex died after 6 days in the hospital. Both brothers served with the local fire department, deepening the loss in a community where neighbors become first rescuers. Ordinary farm work had taken 3 family members within a week. The accident involved silo gas rather than loose grain entrapment, but exposed hidden hazards inside agricultural storage structures. Minnesota had recorded a disturbing year. According to research cited by KSTP, the state led the nation in grain storage accidents and deaths during 2019. For Zach, the Bosel tragedy was regional, not distant. He had seen 2 neighbors rescued from a grain bin and watched farm show rescue demonstrations. Each event exposed the same weakness. Rural fire departments depended on volunteers, yet many lacked tools and training when grain or toxic air turned a workplace into a trap. The danger was familiar, but the available protection was often not. Flowing grain can bury a person within seconds. Movement may pull the body deeper, while the pressure around the chest makes breathing harder. Rescuers cannot simply pull someone free. They may need interlocking panels placed around the victim, forming a temporary wall while grain is removed from inside it. Without that equipment and practice, helpers can lose precious time or become victims themselves. By 2020, Zach and Becky decided that the channel should help close that gap. Through their nonprofit Harvest Outreach, they launched a grain bin safety campaign and started raising money for rescue systems and first responder training. Zach used videos and live broadcasts to explain the danger. Viewers donated. Businesses and other partners joined them. More than 130 emergency groups contacted the Johnsons to say they needed help. The response showed how far Millennial Farmer had traveled from its original purpose. A channel created to explain seeds and pesticides was now connecting donations with small emergency departments across the country. By January 2021, the campaign had raised more than $60,000. Funds had supported rescue equipment and training for 51 fire departments across 13 states. Zach hoped the equipment would never be needed. Its presence alone gave farmers and their families peace of mind. But eventually, one department in Indiana faced a real emergency. According to Becky, firefighters used equipment purchased through money their campaign had raised and saved a person's life. That single rescue changed the meaning of every subscriber count and advertising payment. Online attention could disappear with an algorithm update. A rescued farmer went home because the right tools were available. For Zach and Becky, that was proof that their accidental media business had become something neither had imagined in 2016. Yet the same growth creating that influence was also placing new pressure on their home. Running Millennial Farmer required two jobs that competed for the same hours. Farming demanded patience, maintenance, planning, and immediate responses to weather. YouTube demanded regular uploads, fresh stories, editing, sponsorship work, and moments interesting enough to hold an audience. Sometimes those demands matched perfectly. Planting, harvest, broken machinery, and changing field conditions naturally produced strong videos. Winter did not. After harvest, Zach's work often shifted to meetings with accountants, purchasing seed and chemicals, repairing equipment, and planning the next season. These tasks mattered to the farm, but Becky understood that spreadsheets and orders rarely made exciting viewing. To keep the audience interested, they filmed snow removal, visited other farms, and looked beyond normal fieldwork. In 2019, they launched the Off the Husk podcast with farming discussions, humor, guests, and stories that could continue when field activity slowed. Becky edited the podcast as well as the videos. At one stage, episodes were receiving an estimated 50,000 to 70,000 downloads. The couple also expanded into family content, including a separate channel called Between the Rows. Their children sometimes appeared on camera, but Zach and Becky tried to let each child decide. When one daughter looked uncomfortable, Becky said they left her out. That boundary mattered because viewers no longer felt like strangers. Many believed they knew the Johnson family personally. Most expressed harmless affection. A few crossed a line. Zach described people arriving uninvited at their yard on quiet Sundays and asking whether his children could come outside to play. On one occasion, Becky was showering and Zach was away. For viewers, the farm looked like a familiar place they visited through a screen. For the family living there, an unexpected vehicle in the driveway could feel frightening. Success had brought real protection too. Social media income allowed Zach to finance tractors, purchase land, and operate more acres. Instead of weakening the farm, the internet business gave it financial room to grow. But money could not create more hours. Every day still required decisions about what needed his attention. The crop, the camera, the audience, or his family. Zach continued to dislike the word influencer and preferred creator. His final goal had not changed. He wanted to remain a successful farmer, even if YouTube vanished. But by then, the two identities could no longer be cleanly separated. The farm supported the channel, and the channel supported the farm. As the audience moved toward 1 million subscribers, Zach faced a deeper question. Was he documenting his family legacy, or slowly replacing it with something no previous generation had ever needed to manage? The pressure did not stop the channel's rise. Zach speaking to a phone in a shed had grown into one of YouTube's largest farming communities. But view counts were no longer the most important measure. What mattered was whether their attention could help preserve the world he originally wanted to explain. Millennial Farmer crossed 1 million YouTube subscribers in early 2022, 6 years after his first upload. By September 2024, the channel had recorded more than 350 million lifetime views. Remarkable numbers for content about corn, soybeans, repairs, changing weather, and machinery crossing Minnesota fields. The audience extended beyond farmers. Polling suggested roughly half lacked an agricultural background. Some were young children fascinated by combines. Others were retired viewers who remembered family farms from decades earlier. Many wanted to understand where food came from and why modern growers made decisions that looked troubling from afar. That audience made Zach the bridge he hoped to become. He did not present farming as perfect. Videos showed stuck equipment, flat tires, harvests in snow, failures, and plans ruined by weather. Humor simplified technical details, but the larger message stayed serious. Farmers were not faceless corporations. They were families managing land, debt, risk, and responsibility each season. Zach took the message beyond YouTube. He worked with sponsors, spoke at conventions, visited farms, and highlighted people across agriculture. In 2023, the Minnesota FFA Foundation gave him its media award and invited him to speak at the state convention. He had never imagined entering that space, making the recognition meaningful. The nonprofit work kept growing. By 2024, Zach said the grain bin safety campaign had raised more than $100,000 and helped roughly 60 to 70 rural fire departments obtain rescue equipment. Harvest Outreach partnered with Anderson Bash to offer scholarships in agriculture, engineering, technical programs, and skilled trades for West Central Minnesota students. The scholarships extended the mission beyond Zach's children. Agriculture depends on more than farmers. Mechanics keep machines running. Construction workers build storage systems. Veterinary technicians protect livestock. Engineers design equipment and solve problems that previous generations never faced. Supporting these careers helped family farms survive. Zach volunteered with Farm Rescue, which assists agricultural families facing illness, injury, or natural disaster. In 2022, he participated in his first volunteer case in Raymond, Minnesota. He later used his channel to raise awareness of the group. Again, online visibility became practical help where losing several workdays can threaten a season. Yet the original conflict remained. Every speaking trip, volunteer project, podcast, sponsor meeting, and edited video required time. Zach still shared a full farming operation with his father. When media work pulled him away, his father helped carry the farm. When fieldwork became overwhelming, Becky carried more of the online operation and family responsibilities. The man in front of the camera remained only the most visible part of a team. Becky handled editing, sponsors, platform communication, planning, and countless decisions viewers never saw. Their children appeared when comfortable. Friends, relatives, employees, and neighboring farmers also became part of the channel's world. Millennial Farmer looked spontaneous because real farm life supplied the story, but keeping it operating for years required careful work behind the scenes. In May 2026, NPR News marked 10 years since Zach began opening the farm to the public. He still had more than 1 million subscribers, and the basic formula remained recognizable. Record the real work, explain what was happening, include the mistakes, and allow viewers to see the people behind American agriculture. The milestone did not provide a neat ending. Farming had always moved through profitable years and painful ones. Zach had watched his father manage those cycles, just as earlier generations had adapted from animal power to modern tractors. Social media became another form of adaptation. Its income helped Zach buy into the operation faster as his father began slowing down, giving the family farm another path through difficult markets and rising costs. But adaptation creates uncertainty. A YouTube channel can lose viewers. Sponsorships can end. Algorithms can change without warning. Land, machinery, and family history feel more permanent, yet even a multi-generational farm can disappear if the next transition fails. Zach's online success reduced some financial pressure while creating a new kind of dependence on a business no ancestor could have understood. That is why the real story is not that Zach abandoned farming or secretly vanished. He continued farming while expanding what being a farmer could mean. He became an educator for urban viewers, a source of information for other growers, a fundraiser for rural first responders, a volunteer, a speaker, and part of a larger effort to make agriculture visible to the next generation. The transformation also changed his legacy. In 2016, Zach wanted people to stop repeating half-truths about farmers. 10 years later, millions had watched a real family make decisions through planting, harvest, breakdowns, weather problems, and personal change. Some viewers may never enter a tractor, but they now recognize the work and uncertainty hidden behind food on a shelf. The most surprising truth is also the simplest. Nothing mysterious happened to Zach Johnson. The frustrated farmer who placed a phone on an oil drum did not uncover a scandal or leave the land behind. He built a second business that could protect the first, then used its reach to support people he might never meet. His greatest challenge is not recovering what he lost. It is keeping everything he created from pulling him away from the identity that created it. So, does Zach's story change how you see farmers who build careers online? Or do you believe the camera eventually becomes too great a distraction from the land? Share your opinion in the comments. If the story gave you a new perspective, like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Then click the next video on your screen to discover what really happened to another familiar figure whose public success concealed a very different private struggle.